Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ouroboros Out Loud, a tale that never ends, from a narrator that never dies. Follow our storyteller, the last, as they journey through the Ouroboros itself to undo the end of the world, soothing it with stories from the now dead universe. Ouroboros Out Loud is produced and distributed by Chapman University's Ouroboros magazine, and frames student submissions at the heart of its story. Each episode shows the last reading new submissions from the magazine's history to the Ouroboros, until they're able to begin the cycle of stories anew. If you would like your story to help save time itself, consider submitting to our fall and spring semester issues, or our Halloween zine. Your submission may just convince the Ouroboros to begin the cycle anew. Without further ado, this is episode 2, The Maw.
So in the mouth I travel, the teeth closing me tight, my friend's eyes twisting in their sockets just to keep me in its sight. And though its eyes light my path, one of star and one of night, I feel unease pass over me. I must appease its appetite. I see you watch me, my old friend. Hope we don't see double in the end. My friend just sighs, its gaze on me. I guess it didn't find me funny. The scales are hard against my soul. The breath runs through a strong cajole to venture deeper in the maw. The night drapes over like a shawl. My book held close against my chest. I knew my friend demands the best. How about another story, much to your taste, as to ensure they don't go to waste? I gaze into the vast palette, its insides an other world that shall at no point stop to hear my plea, its mind dark and consuming as can be. No light escapes its black-holed mind, the stars consumed before my eyes, the pull so strong like a grip to pull me off, to make me slip. And in this storm I hold my book, I walk the scales, my resolve unshook. Despite my friend's bitter taste and tongue, its gaze on me was then undone. That heartless look it often adorns. Perhaps his hunger desires more. Don't be so bitter, my blessed friend. All you do is feed on ends. But since this route we start anew, I gift you something new to chew. Fresh from the river of memory. A milky silver film was the first thing I saw. It covered the sky, blurring not only the daylight, but the color it radiated, the setting it illuminated, and the time it signified. All was bleak. All was grayscale. Next came breath, something filling my lungs. My body reacted, carrying the discomfort away with an uncoordinated symphony of contractions and desperate attempts at respiration. After that was touch, the brisk air parting over my cold skin, my wet hair, the soft green floor of little malleable spines beneath my hands. Yes, they were green, not gray. Color, meaning, feeling, morality, not silver, not cold, not numbness, not eternity. As the milky film drained away, reality poured in like a ruthless flood. Senses flashed without hesitation, prodding my mind in 100,000 places. I could feel everything. Every trace of scent in the air, every shade of blue and white in the sky, the bristling of each and every hair on my body, the rapid acceleration of my wet, shaky breath, the lurching, terrified noises that erupted from my throat. But like every fiber of my being was condensing, pushing against each other with more force than I could possibly resist. Reality whirled, snapped, and permeated my being with no distraction to ground or soften my perspective. Everything was right there, raw and powerful, and none of it was kind. All of it was ruthless and dead, like the very soul that could feel a mortal fear of inevitable demise. I had no right to take this all in. This overwhelm was cosmically righteous, unflinchingly powerful, and still pouring with eternal bluster, not giving me a chance to close the floodgates. Such was my torture. Time passed callously, unmeasurable only until the end of this dreamy horror. Can you hear me? Voice, words, skin, person. My body tensed, grasping at action to no avail. Danger. My eyes widened in a panic as I tried to thrash away from its clutches. Danger. Run. Run. But I was too weak to move. I froze when a warm palm touched my cold, wet chest. A little trace of pressure poured in from the hand, and the warmth began to trickle down into my ribs. The chaos slipped away, taken over by the smooth, sensual melody of the afternoon wind. With each slowing breath, I could feel the hand anchoring me, guiding me. I was frightened to return to the remorseless sensation of raw experience, and so I clung onto this place of focus. I closed my eyes for a moment, drew air to my capacity, and opened. Dark, curled hair, soft, misty skin, freckles dappled across the semblance of an elegant face, warm brown eyes like leaves in the fall, and warmer breath that reached my skin and smelled of compassion, beauty. Breath flowed peacefully through me as I held her gaze, as her gaze held me. I was still afraid to take my eyes and thoughts away, still afraid that this feeling could be fleeting. Yet, though tears streamed down my cheeks, though everything was uncertain, this one remained here with me. And for that, all I could feel was tender. Pearl. It started as a small lump, barely discernible under her tongue. At first, it wasn't bothersome enough to warrant much attention. Only every now and again would you press her tongue against it and remember it was there. But after some weeks, it had noticeably grown, and the awkward position of this growing bulb had begun to impair her speech. Her brothers became attuned to the longer silences and fewer words. After the 10th nod or shake of her head, they began to push and tease at her to talk, to open her mouth. In reply, she vehemently tossed her head this way and that, pressed her lips shut, and ran to her room to cry. There, alone, she would peer at herself in the mirror, at the way her cheeks had hollowed due to the perpetual pucker her face had contorted into, as the bump pushed her tongue closer to the roof of her mouth. How humiliating. She looked sour-faced, sour like a lemon, and no one at school would want to talk to the sour lemon girl. Maybe she should fake sick for a little while. But no, her mother wasn't the type to allow that kind of behavior, let alone fall for it. She stomped around her room in a fit, kicking the beach ball that had still not been put away from their family trip a month ago. The trip where her brothers had thrown sand in her face, sending her blindly running to her mother to punish them for such cruelty. Her mother had cradled her head in her arms, but failed to reprimand the boys for their transgression. She had spent the rest of the day spitting sand and salt. Sometimes she would spit at one of them as revenge. But now, it seems that revenge was in vain. Her brothers still tormented her, while she was powerless to fight back without her usual quips and jeers. The lump caught her throat and greatly hindered her ability to eat or even swallow. She wished it to go away. Still looking in the mirror, she began to press down on it with her tongue. Gingerly at first, for the more pressure the bump withstood, the more a tender pain would begin to flare behind her teeth. But as she continued to hold her tongue against it, the pain would become almost unnoticeable until she would again press harder. The bulb was as solid as a rock until she felt a sort of break in the shield, like when popping a pus-filled pimple. Instinctively, she sucked a bunch of saliva back in her throat, reacting to the pain that erupted in her mouth. The first of what she tasted was her blood, bitter and warm. She started to gag at the sensation, but paused as her tongue landed on something smooth and round, and distinctly different from the feel of her own skin and gums. Carefully, she felt around her mouth some more, and came to the conclusion that the skin under her tongue had indeed erupted to reveal something growing inside. She slid her tongue across the foreign growth a couple more times, determining from its feel that it must be some kind of abnormally placed tooth. In order to more accurately define it, she dared to open her mouth to see it through the mirror. The skin under her tongue was red and swollen. Blood pooled in the crevices of her teeth. Yet, in the disaster of it all, something gleamed like stardust in her mouth. She snapped her mouth shut and smacked a hand over her face as pain coursed through her throat and up into her nose. It flared like fire, hot and explosive, a supernova in her mouth. But that was it. There was for proof. Resolved, she braced herself to open the wound wider by clamping down on it harder than before. More blood streamed from the bulb as she willed the strange tooth to reveal itself fully. Ignoring the tears that were beginning to form in her eyes, she persevered through the pain and pushed, pushed. It moved. She stopped her tongue abruptly as her hand returned to her mouth in surprise. It moved. Maybe she could rid herself of it now by forcing it out completely. That would certainly spare her from a useless trip to the pediatrician. She continued where she had left off, squeezing her tongue and the bump together. The sensation of the tooth slowly exiting her body was enough to make her gag and gulp with more discomfort than she had ever felt. But she pressed on it so as to reach the satisfying conclusion of seeing it gone from her. With one final push of the tongue, the tooth broke free from its fleshy prison, shot from her mouth, and ricocheted off the mirror straight into the carpet. Splatters of blood stained the floor with a rusty reddish brown. She would have to clean that up before her mother saw. But at last, she was free of the damn thing. She crouched down to inspect the monstrous tooth, though, really, it seemed far too round to truly be called that. She picked it up by her thumb and forefinger and carried it, stretched out at arm's length, to the bathroom to wash it of the blood and stray bits of gum. Once cleaned, she could hardly fathom what it was she was holding. Between her fingers was no tooth at all. It was a pearl. She rolled it in between her fingers. It was perfectly spherical, with a grayish tint of its color, about the size of a thimble. The miraculous jewel glistened under the bathroom lights. But how did a pearl get into her mouth, under her very skin? A knock came from the closed bathroom door. "Pearl, what are you doing in there? I need to use the bathroom real bad," one of her brothers said from the other side. "Use the other bathroom," she replied in a clear voice. "Jeremy's in there already. Hey!" She opened the door to him suddenly, staring straight into his watery eyes. She did not move from the door for a moment, but instead stood her ground as she said, "Next time, tell Jeremy to hurry up." She sidestepped to allow her brother to pass into the bathroom. As he listened to the stream of expulsion, she removed a clenched hand from behind her back, revealing the pearl tucked into her palm. The doorknob jiggled, and she once again concealed the pearl in her fist. As her brother exited the bathroom, with a relieved sigh, she tightened her hold on the pearl. There was no reason to let him in on her discovery. It would be her secret, and her secret alone. A little pearl of her very own. The taste of worlds full of song, and stories while you wait agog. While you coil, my bitter friend, I have more stories as I descend. That's good, old friend. Don't lose faith. I have much more, just you wait. And with my final steps, I pause at the softness of the maw. It seems I've reached the end of this tale. A final step to continue the trail. I have much more in store for you. For the sake of all stories I must pursue. And with my step onto its tongue, my body changed, my voice and lung. My friends deep hum within their brain, the pull of stars no more a strain. I'll miss its voice, so loud and clear, as if they stood beside me here. And deeper I flow from its throat. The voice becomes more like a croak. And with my steps from the mind, the transformation now satisfied, for continuing through my tired friend, to inspire them to continue again.
This episode of Ouroboros Out Loud was written by Raquel and produced by Amin Veach. Fresh from the River of Memory was written by Cooper Wood, and Pearl was written by Brie Velez. For more episodes, or to submit to the magazine, please visit ouroborosmagazine.wixsite.com/Chapman, or find us on YouTube at Ouroboros Out Loud. Thank you again for listening.